Welcome Bitcoin friends, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Today we're going to look at the Bitcoin charts. We'll do some TA, look at various time frames, we'll also look at market cipher, and we'll also take a look at this interesting comparison between the two pullbacks on this run up from 30k and the similarities on a market cipher on the 12-hour, 1 day and the 2-day time frame. So if that sounds interesting, stay tuned. Let's get into the charts. So I want to start here on the 2-week chart, and we can see we do have this parallel channel drawn on the log scale, and on this current 2-week candle, which will close at the end of the week, we can see that we did end up wicking down to the bottom of this channel around 53.6. I did think we were going to get a bounce a bit higher with that news of the new variant with the CV. It did cause the stock market to have a bit of a dump, and Bitcoin also followed with that movement down. So we did end up going lower to the bottom of this channel, and so far we have gotten a nice bounce from that 53 area. Currently we are at 58,140. And we can see we are above this main area of VPVR support here. This is the amount of volume traded at certain price levels, but again we'll have to wait for the end of the week for this candle to close. Currently it is inside this order block here in blue. This order block comes from this red candle in an uptrend similar to this red candle. It's a demand and supply zone, and it becomes of interest later on when we're at those levels and can act as resistance or support. As we can see on this order block, it did act as resistance. We got pushed back down. Once we broke above it again, we moved up to the next order block. These order blocks are relevant to the time frame that we are on. It would be good if we can close the week above this order block. The top of this order block is at around 59,000. That also coincides with the area where the VPVR starts to drop off here, as we haven't had much price action above that level. Onto the weekly time frame now. We did just open this weekly candle. We can see on that previous week is where we had that pullback to that 53.7 level and the top of this channel on the log chart. We did end up closing the previous week inside this 2-week order block in yellow, and we are currently trading inside that order block. And we do see the biggest spike on the VPVR around that 57k level. We did close above that biggest spike here, and we are currently above it. We can also see we pretty much came down to the top of the weekly EMA ribbon here and did get that nice bounce. Looking at the stochastic RSI here, we have continued to come down. We're currently at a 41 reading, so we could possibly come all the way down here and cool off. This doesn't mean that the price has to come down. We can go sideways within this range here, or the stochastic RSI does cool off. As we can see on this previous red candle here, the stochastic RSI was at about a 58 reading. We did end up going sideways for another candle and then started pumping, but the stochastic RSI did still cool off for a couple more weeks. We have been watching this 70 level on the RSI, and when we do get above that, that's when I think we're going to start having some big price movements, similar to what we did here when breaking the 70 level. We do also have this weekly order block here with this red candle in an uptrend, and we can see, just looking at this more immediate price action from 30k up, that we do have a spike on the VPVR in this area. So I do think this may act as resistance on the first test, and this order block is at around 60,900 to 61,500. There are still several days left in the week, so we could still possibly test this order block before the end of the week. Onto the daily chart now. We have that same parallel channel drawn on the log scale, and we have been comparing these pullbacks. This previous one from 53k down to 40k. With our current pullback from 69k to 53k. And there are a lot of similarities. Doing the fib retracement from this low to this high, we see that we pulled back to that 0.5 fib level, and after getting some resistance at the 382 level here, once we did break above it here, and also this trend line connecting the two highest points, we did get that bullish momentum and start pushing higher. Looking at the fib retracement from this low to this high on our current pullback, did a very similar thing, coming back to the 0.5 fib level. We have gotten this bounce, and we are currently above the 382 level, but we aren't yet above this downward sloping trend line connecting these two highs. But we are very close to doing a similar thing, I believe, and there are other signs on the indicators that we are going to start having a big move to the upside. A bit closer now, I do have this yellow rectangle, which is that 2-week order block. We can see we have been inside that order block for a bit here. We did dip down to touch the bottom of this trend line, and also have this red rectangle here, which is relevant to the VPVR. But that weekly order block we talked about is also inside this red rectangle. Before we look at the VPVR, we'll just have a look at the EMA ribbon here on the daily. We can see that it did coincide with this downward sloping trend line and breaking above that 382 level. And very similar to our current price action, we can see the EMA ribbon is starting to touch this downward sloping trend line, and we are just above this 382 level. We haven't closed this daily candle yet though, so we'll have to see how that closes. But I think once we start closing above this EMA ribbon and this downward sloping trend line, then we're going to start seeing a similar bullish momentum. And pulling up the VPVR now, we can see this red rectangle does represent the most amount of volume traded here, as we spent a lot of time in this range. And the point of control, the maximum amount of volume, was traded at 61,224. We do also see a spike on the VPVR around 57,500, and we are currently above that level, and we did close the previous day above that level also. The previous day's candle did close just on the 382 level here, and we'll have to see how the current daily candle closes. But I do think we're getting very close to a breakout here. You can see on this pullback to this trend line in this channel, we did just get supported on the VPVR support here. Looking at the stochastic RSI, we are moving up quite quick here, currently at a 83 level, but we can stay up here for a while above this 80 level, and that's when we quite often get the bullish momentum kicking in. At the RSI, we were watching this horizontal line in red here, just connecting the two lows on the RSI, and that captured the two lows on this run. We did get quite close to the bottom of this trend line, but with this nice bounce off the bottom of this channel, I think there's a very good chance that this was the bottom. And let's pull up some daily order blocks now. We can see initially we were getting support off of these 3 order blocks here on these bounces, and I was thinking we were going to possibly come down one more time here and get support off the bottom of these order blocks at 55.7 and then make an attempt for a breakout. But as mentioned, we did have that news on the variant, and the stock market had a decent drop and Bitcoin followed, and we did end up dropping lower here. But currently we can see we are above these 3 order blocks here. This daily candle still has to close. The top of this order block is at around 57,850. It would be good for the daily to close above that level. The next order block here is this one. It's quite thin. It's at around 58,820. And then we see these order blocks higher up here, and also that VPVR area, which may act as resistance. And I think this order block here will be quite important. It comes from this red candle here in this uptrend, and we can see that it did act as support several times here, and is one of the more recent order blocks. And that order block is at 60,900 to 61,300. Looking at the Bitcoin futures chart now on CME, doing a similar analysis, same parallel channel, looking at both of these pullbacks and comparing them. They are slightly different as to the spot price chart, and we can see doing the fib retracement here, we have that 382 level, but this downward sloping trend line is a bit more sharper and is below that 382 level. This could be an earlier sign that we are going to break this trend line on the spot price chart and start that bullish momentum again. And looking at the current pullback here, we have that 382 level. We can see similarly here, it did act as resistance here, and we got that pullback like we did on this candle here. And currently we have been testing this downward sloping trend line here, and with today's current candle here, we can see we are above this trend line. We did have this big wick up and down just recently, and I believe this is because the head of the Federal Reserve, Powell, was giving a speech, and he said that he thinks inflation is no longer transitory, as everyone probably already knew. But it did affect the stock market. We did have some volatile moves, and also affected Bitcoin at the time that speech was going on. We see similarities with the daily EMA ribbon on the futures chart. We can see we did wick to the top of this ribbon and also to the bottom. We are currently inside this ribbon. So to be completely confident on this chart, would like to see us close above the EMA ribbon and also this 382 level, which is at 59,660. Pulling up the VPVR now, we can see we have a spike lower down here at 57,330 to 58,160, and we are currently just above that, and we'll have to wait for this daily candle to close. We also have this spike higher up on the VPVR. The pointer controls at 62,000, and the range of this possible resistance is mainly between around 61.5 to 64,000. We also see that golden pocket here on that overall retracement, and the 0.5 fib level does lie within possible VPVR resistance. Looking at the stochastic RSI, we do see quite a big difference. Daily stochastic RSI is only just starting to tick up here, only at a 24 reading, and has a lot of room to go higher, whereas on the spot price chart we were around the 80 level. The RSI is at a 49 reading and pretty much in the middle of the range. And going down to the 4-hour time frame now, we see that same parallel channel. We are on the log scale, but I will switch it to the regular scale for the shorter term analysis here, and that will throw off these lines, so we can ignore these lines for now. And we'll just compare the two pullbacks here on the 4-hour time scale. That same trend line that we're trying to get back above, that 382 level we talked about, and also have another trend line drawn here, this yellow trend line, just connecting these lows and also the resistance here on these first attempts to move higher. And we can see once we got above that yellow line, we spent a bit of time going sideways and then broke above the white trend line and the 382 level and moved higher. And similarly, we have a trend line here in yellow connecting this low and also these tops, and we can actually see that this trend line is currently meeting the downward sloping trend line in white, and we are trying to break above both of them at the same time. You can see what's different to the previous pullback here is we did have this support level, bounced off it several times before breaking above this trend line, whereas on this occasion we had that bigger drop and we did drop below this supporting trend line, and then we did have that nice bounce, got back inside this wedge pattern, and now we're trying to break both of these trend lines. And pulling up the VPVR on the 4-hour, these yellow rectangles here were just representing the spikes on the VPVR, and just dragging it across the price action, we can see that we spent time here in this yellow rectangle where there was that VPVR support, and then we moved above to the next area on the VPVR, and this was possible resistance area. We can see we have been trying to break above this and also these trend lines. Looking at the 4-hour EMA ribbon, you can see it has been acting as resistance. We did get this nice move to the upside, got above the ribbon here, and then we came back down to test this ribbon for support. We did wick lower, but we did close these 4-hour candles inside the ribbon. We had that big move to the upside all the way to 59.2, and then that big move back down. We did have that volatility, came all the way back down to 56.5. Now we have had a nice bounce, currently at 58,000. So it does look very close to breaking. Looking at the stochastic RSI, we are in the bullish control zone here at around an 80 reading, and the RSI is at around a 60 reading here. We did have some divergence here. We can see higher highs on the RSI, just slightly, but lower highs on the price action between the same points. We did get some pullbacks here from that divergence. So we do need to get above the previous high here around 59,180 and close a 4-hour candle above that, or making these higher highs on the RSI. So now I want to compare both of these pullbacks again. On the left we'll look at this pullback, and on the right we'll look at our current pullback. This is just that bottom section now, the first pullback lower down, and our current pullback. This is that parallel channel and the bottom of that parallel channel on both of these. And on Market Cipher, this top row is the 12-hour time frame, the second row is the daily time frame, and the bottom row is the 2-day time frame. So just looking at the first pullback here lower down, we can see on the 12-hour we did have a green dot, red dot, green dot, red dot, green dot, and then finally broke to the upside. And on our current pullback we did a very similar thing. Got a green dot, red dot, green dot, red dot, green dot, and now we're looking to break to the upside. We need to get above this zero line on the 12-hour time frame. And looking at the daily time frame now, you can see we got a green dot, then a red, then a green, and then we took off. And our current pullback, we got a green, a red, and then a green. So very similar with both of these time frames. And as we mentioned in previous videos, when we have a lot of mixed messages with these red and green dots, we have to look on the higher term time frames. So we looked on the 2-day chart. So on the 2-day chart, once we did get that green dot down here, we can see that we started moving to the upside and continued the bull run. So we are waiting for that green dot now on the Market Cipher. I do believe it did appear when we were around 58,200. So if we can close the day at 58.2 around that area, that green dot will appear and it will actually be confirmed. We do open a new 2-day candle on tomorrow's open. So it would be good to see that green dot and get it confirmed rather than have to wait another 2 days. But we can see we are very similar here. And after we got this second daily green dot, we pretty much started taking off straight away. We did get that daily green dot confirmed, and now I think we are pretty much ready to take off. Just quickly looking at the other time frames here on Market Cipher. This is the 4-hour chart. We did get this red dot, and on the previous occasions we did have decent pullbacks from these red dots on the 4-hour. Was a little bit worried that we might get a bigger pullback here, but we did manage to get another green dot on this pump and it did get confirmed. The 6-hour did a similar thing here with this red dot, and these previous ones were quite bad, but we did also get a blood diamond here on all these pullbacks, which does indicate that we may have a big pullback. And we didn't get that on this red dot. We did follow it with a green dot, and that also has been confirmed. Looking at the 2-day again, we can see how close we are to that green dot. And again, I think if we can close at around 58.2, that green dot will be there and will get confirmed on the day open. And this could also flow on to the 3-day chart here. You can see we had that pullback, and we're looking for a green dot here. The blue wave is starting to curve back around, similar to this pullback. We got that 3-day green dot actually on the 1st of October, and our next 3-day candle here would be on the 3rd of December. So still a couple more days, but it is interesting that both will potentially be at the start of the month. So I think that's about all. Hope you enjoyed that analysis. Sorry I wasn't able to put out a video sooner. I will try to put out a couple during this week. I think looking at the comparison between these two pullbacks, they are very, very similar. And I do think once we get that 2-day green dot, it's going to be that extra confirmation that we're going to start moving back higher on this bull run. So we'll have to see if we do get that green dot before the day closes and it does get confirmed. And again, that would be at around 58.2 closing price. So thanks for watching. I'm Bitcoin Mamo. I'll see you next time. Bye.